Call the January 28th City Council regular meeting to order. And as soon as we get seated, Clerk Ben Lane, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski.
Present.
Vice Mayor Barry Graham. Council members Jan Duboskis.
Present.
Adam Quasman.
Present.
Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
Marianne McAllen.
Present.
And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
Interim City Manager Greg Caton.
Present.
City Attorney Sherry Scott.
Present.
Acting City Treasurer Annaleah Johnson.
Present.
Acting City Auditor Leigh Clough.
Present.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Tonight we have Scottsdale Police Officers Sergeant Sean Ryan and Detective Dustin Patrick, as well as firefighter Mike Tweet. If anyone requires their assistance at any point during the meeting, please advise. I am going to ask Councilwoman Jan Duboskis to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. So for the mayor's report, I'd like to point out that tonight is Vice Mayor Graham's last meeting as Vice Mayor. On behalf of the City Council, we wish to thank you for your dedicated service over the last 8 months and over the last couple of years as well. And I welcome Councilwoman Jan Duboskis as our new Vice Mayor moving forward, effective February 1st, so congratulations. Thank you very much. So presentations tonight, I'm pleased to invite and announce that we have the Scottsdale Fire Department on hand, Chief Tom Shannon, and he will discuss with us tonight the very important subject of our wildfire mitigation, preparedness, and mitigation plan update. Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In the gallery tonight are many representatives of the fire department as well as other city stakeholders. It really does take a village to keep the city safe when it comes to wildfire planning and preparedness. It really starts with our emergency management division that oversees all of our citywide hazards, and that starts with a Maricopa County community wildfire protection plan. Scottsdale has its own annex in that plan. I'd like to just kind of describe some of the features of that for you. Let's talk a little bit about the risk that exists when we talk about wildfire. And certainly it's no surprise to us that we live in a very hot, dry climate. And our fuel model is substantial in terms of open space and the things that have existed way before Scottsdale was ever the bustling city that it is. A term that is important to all of us is wildland-urban interface. What that really means is where communities and businesses abut the open spaces. Some of those areas are state lands, some of those areas are Tonto National Forest areas, some of those are established preserve. And what's important is those communities are directly interacting with the fuels that exist out there. The causes of fires can be certainly naturally caused by lightning. Every once in a while you'll get the occasional unknown fire that exists that has no real cause of origin, and so it just goes as unknown. But really what we're talking about here are human-caused fires. A substantial number of the fires that we experience here in Scottsdale are construction-based, to no surprise. Vehicles dragging chains, careless disposal of smoking materials, warming fires. Not so much here, but as not too long ago, the Patriot Fire was actually caused by a power line associated start. And so that can have a significant potential, most notably recently in Hawaii and in California, those power line impacts. And then fireworks. That is probably the most significant concern that we have several times a year, is the use of fireworks in unauthorized areas. And then another term that's important to you, should be important to you, is the term community conflagration. That really is the new lexicon, if you will, as to what California just recently experienced, and certainly Hawaii. And that is where communities, whether densely populated or not, are intertwined with the environment. And the next slide will kind of give you a sense of how that translates. Is we'll see fire move from vegetation to vegetation, understandably, vegetation to structure, and then structure to structure. What we just recently saw in California was really a combination of vegetation and structure so densely intertwined that that coupled with winds that frankly no fire agency could outperform caused structure to structure impacts. Our goal in everything that we do is to disrupt these pathways as much as we can. We do that through direct interaction with our community services division, our planning and development folks, certainly our neighboring communities and agencies help us in that regard. But the key is for us to disrupt those fuel pathways in a very, very responsible way. We do this through defensible spaces, home hardening, and then this WUI, or Wildland Urban Interface Suppression Response. I will tell you that we have a very capable response system in Scottsdale. We have many capable assets, and we have phenomenally capable firefighters. But really, the goal should be prevention, and that's really what we'd like to talk to you just a little bit more about today. This is our brush fire history over the last 5 years. The picture to the right kind of gives you a sense of the bluer dots are construction starts, and the red dots are non-construction brush fires. They could be human caused, but they're other sources. But as you can see, we do have a sizable number of brush fire starts. Thankfully, most of these are contained to a very small amount of square footage or even acreage. But every once in a while, and notably the last couple summers, we've had some large fires that have required substantial internal and regional assets. This slide just kind of further gives you a sense of that number. 72 was in 2024. So let's talk a little bit about risk mitigation strategy. Here's what we do every year. It is substantial, and it includes everybody you see really on the balcony, and that it really starts right now, where we're planning all of our fuel mitigation efforts. We leverage the grants that we're able to obtain from hiring a very talented fuels manager from the National Forest Service, and that really sets us up to enact all of the aspirational goals of that community wildfire protection plan that is posted with the county. Throughout the year, you see that we have hazardous vegetation programs and preserve steward education and training and HOA interaction, Firewise education and program management, as well as preparing ourselves for what we would anticipate as being the hazard in front of us. So every year around March, we will hold a tabletop. All of the key stakeholders come to that tabletop, and we talk about what the forecast is for the fire season. We get a report from the national weather agencies, and they tell us really what does the potential for fire look like. And then we literally storyboard scenarios and talk about who's got what responsibility, and we go through various location starts. And that is super important for two reasons. Number one, kind of checks us to make sure that we're thinking about the season ahead, but it also establishes those critical relationships that we don't want to be having to start with on the incident. We want those relationships established well before. One quick anecdotal story, I believe it was the Diamond Fire, if I'm correct, was actually spotted by one of our hotshot teams that was from the Tonto, and they patrol their response areas just like we patrol our response areas, and the time between them spotting that and our brush trucks interacting with that fire was literally minutes, and that just wouldn't happen unless you work that relationship. And so that's a positive note to make here. So our community risk reduction efforts come in the form of actual community risk reduction officers. We have 3 of them that we established some years ago to do the daily work of ensuring that communities, residents, businesses, and then honestly the WUI itself is always being monitored and being watched. Construction safety guidelines are encountered with each of our contractors that are out in the wildland-urban interface. From the permitting process in planning and development all the way through the execution of the build, we want eyes on that property. This is an area where we can improve. You'll hear that in the recommendations, but we interact with the contractors significantly and frequently. Our inspectors are just outstanding. Our inspectors do over 200 site inspections a year. They do hazardous vegetation assessments, they do home safety defensible space assessments, and all of that contributes to setting the resident up for a safer existence within the WUI. This is an example of those construction site inspections. Quite literally, what our inspectors will do is, as they do their daily inspection list of activities, they will engage the contractors who are out in the wildland urban interface and make sure that they're doing things right, that they've got the appropriate cutting spaces if they're doing hot work. And there's many additional things that we can do in this area, but this is a great addition to our planning. Hazardous vegetation assessments. What's important about this slide is look at the upper left-hand corner. We see 33,000 contacts. So in 2024, there were 33,000 residential contacts for hazardous vegetation. And the red to the right shows total issues followed up on. What's key to this, though, is these are the actual firefighters that would respond to that area doing these site inspections. And what they do is they engage the property mostly through a windshield survey. We're sitting in our trucks, we're looking at the hazard, and then if we see things that we think need to be rectified, what we'll do is we'll engage the property owner, and I'll show you in just a second, with flyers, and we'll reach out and contact them using volunteers that we have to see how we can help them improve their property fuel management. The example that you see here, the picture that's in the middle, is an example of growth all the way up into a resident that might be an area where we would give counsel and offer them recommendations to provide defensible space. So these hazardous assessment these assessments of vegetation are absolutely essential. Additionally, we have been the benefactor and probably the primary benefactor of Healthy Forests Initiative grants, especially because of the great work of Dave Ramirez. And what we are able to do here and what this slide represents is the leveraging of grant dollars and existing dollars inside community services, public works, the water department, to address those areas that are most likely to be source locations for starts and do the defensible space work either in the form of chemical treatments or mechanical treatments, essentially landscaping. And so this is a slide that shows how we truly do try to leverage every dollar we have to get the biggest bang for the buck, if you will. This is that flyer representation that I wanted to share with you. We have not only our FireWise program, which is the content on the left that we provide to our residents and businesses so that they can live safely within the WUI, but then if there are issues, we give them information on the right to help them kind of manage that risk as we engage with them. What you're looking at here are the compliant FireWise communities. Scottsdale really has a bit of a proud speaking point in that we've got all these folks in the green that are established FireWise communities. That's no small task. That requires substantial commitment from these HOAs and these communities, and we applaud them and we interact with them daily. The prevention staff and the community risk reduction captains are engaging with them continuously to help them improve their living within the WUI. The areas where we have orange and yellow are areas where it's either pending established fire-wise compliance or are aspirational. One of the things that's important about fire-wise, though, is it's not the cure-all. What it does is sets us up for greater defense. What we think in Scottsdale is necessary is a little bit more thoughtful look at the mix of fuels and the topography and the design of our communities to make sure that all the features of FireWise are either addressed or complemented by other things that we would recommend, and you'll see that in some of the recommendations portion. The NAOS, the Natural Area Open Space Maintenance conversation, is an area where our planning and development folks are experts, but essentially what it describes is what exists in our wildland urban interface, and that is a very fingery, penetrating fuel reality in and around our homes. We know what a Scottsdale looks like, and we know what our washes look like. Some of those are very overgrown. Many of them include invasive species. In fact, all of them do. The sweet spot is making sure that we're managing fuels in protected areas like the NAOS, as well as areas like the preserve, where substantial work has gone into establishing best practices in those areas, and also making sure that we take care of the fuels that now exist there. That you'll hear that as well in my recommendations. A little bit of example of before and after in terms of FireWise programming to the same properties. You can see the overgrowth on the left and the improvement on the right. All of that sets us up for a less likelihood that vegetation to occupancy transfer is going to occur, and that's the value of FireWise, as well as folks just feeling more comfortable in their communities. That's the FireWise program has many strengths, but that's certainly one of them. So as I wrap up and get close to questions, really where we're at in terms of our community wildfire protection program strengths is this: the people up on the balcony, the prevention staff, the plan review folks, the planning and development personnel, our community services staff, the preserve staff, everyone who's engaged in the inspection and the planning of living inside that WUI are key. Certainly our emergency response resources are valuable assets, but we really do hate to rely on them. We've been pretty darn lucky over the last few years that so many of the air assets that we all saw over the last few summers were available. Many times they're not, because they're a very rare asset in the Southwest, and we have just been fortunate in our experiences that they have been available. Certainly I mentioned the community engagement. That's an area where I think we need to do more. We can do more by engaging the community and educating them, and then bringing them in on solving some of their own problems. And then certainly stakeholder engagement well ahead of these issues. The firefighter training that we do now, I think meets the needs of Scottsdale, but from a system perspective, and you all realize that we operate in a very sophisticated fire system, there's more that can be done to integrate everybody's capabilities so that if they come to Scottsdale, they're operating more effectively. So when it comes to recommendations, from my perspective, and the seat that I sit in, and the accountability and responsibility that I feel for this issue, I think we obviously need to continue our community engagement, really try to drive, if not more FireWise communities, then drive more Scottsdale-specific fuel management ideology. And then continue the community stakeholder engagement. I think we do need to expand our inspection and code enforcement intentions. I think we should be more purposeful in some of our preemptive work. The hot work is a key issue in the construction world. So where the grinding and cutting takes place, I think there can be areas where we ask for enhanced notification the day of the grinding versus pulling a permit for grinding work, but that could take place over the next 180 days. We just don't know when. I think we can do better there. And then I do think we can review ordinances to look where there's opportunity to give my position the authorities that might be required to manage fuels that exist in the NAOS, in the preserve, that perhaps have been restricted in terms of the ability to touch those, but clearly are contributing to the potentiality of that vegetation to structure fire problem. And then the last recommendation that I have, and that is, we work so well together in this city because of the collaborative process and really the people that are involved in that. That may not always be the case, and so I think that what we can do is put some structure around that and put more responsibility on the fire department to truly have the authority to prioritize fuels from the northernmost part of our city to the southernmost part of our city, and really not have to rely on relationships entirely to ensure that the prioritization of our fuels management takes place. I will tell you that we have had nothing but success stories in that regard. We have force multiplied and leveraged grant dollars tenfold, and so I don't want to leave you with the impression that there's a problem. I just don't know that it'll always be me and my fantastic partners in these seats, and so I think that we can do better there. So with that, when it comes to when things happen, I think that we can do better in holding folks accountable for perhaps areas where they may have been informed that they needed to do better and didn't. And so we are working with our legal partners to strengthen that. A lot of that has to do with timely response to the investigative side of fires, and then adherence to very important prosecutorial procedure to make sure that we set them up for successful civil and criminal prosecution if that's necessary. But clearly, I think we can do more. With that, I'll stop talking, and I'll let you ask questions to see if there's anything you want to expand on.
Thank you, Chief Shannon. Very important issue, and I appreciate you taking the time to give us an update and also talk about your recommendations. And I know there's other council members that want to ask questions or discuss this, but I, for one, would love to see this on a future agenda in the very near future, come back agendizing your recommendations for consideration. So with that, before we make any decisions on that, I'd like to ask Vice Mayor Graham to speak. Councilwoman DeBasquez.
Yeah, I didn't press the button there. I don't know why.
Someone pressed your button. Yeah. It's up there. Yeah. Councilwoman DeBasquez.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski. Thank you, Chief Shannon. First, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for all the work that you're doing. We are a very unusual city owning a mountain, and so it's an unusual opportunity to protect us through those wildfires. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I agree with the mayor. I'd like to see your recommendations come before council, so I hope you'll work with the city manager on that. I would like to tell a brief story, which was over the weekend, our neighbor across the street thought he smelled gas, and the fire department showed up immediately. The hazmat truck came immediately. He's an elderly gentleman, and there was no gas, but they did not make him feel dumb. They took care of him, and they brought my little girls fire hats, and they made them feel so welcome. And so the work that you're doing impacts the community, and it makes people feel dignified, and it makes them feel safe. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Shannon, and thank you to all of our firefighters here. I just have some specific questions, and I, of course, agree with the mayor and Councilwoman DeBasquez that I want to see these agendized. But I just want to make sure I understand. Right now, obviously, it's the fire department's responsibility to prevent and then protect against fires. But what I'm hearing is that overseeing the mitigation of fuel mitigation is not currently under your jurisdiction. It's broken up into different departments. Is that correct?
There is accountability for that, Councilmember Whitehead. The reality is that we have ordinance in place that addresses how we deal with fuels in the NAOS and in the preserve. And those are managed by very capable departments in planning, development, and community services. We work very collaboratively with them to prioritize the fuels that we are aware of, and we focus a lot on the right-of-ways, easements, and those very particular WUI areas. My concern is that I'm accountable for the decisions we make, but I don't necessarily have the absolute authority to change the order of play, if you will. So where we have potential disagreement, I really don't have the authority to change that under current ordinance. And so my recommendation is that we strengthen the authority of the fire chief to thoughtfully use fuel modeling and fire flow programming, software programming, to work with our current partners to ensure that what we think is best practice in perhaps the NAOS or even in our protected preserve is really what really exists now. The technology has changed so much that we can do vegetation assessments that precisely identify invasive species versus native species, and so we can be very precise in the fuel reduction that we're talking about. This is not talking about clear-cutting huge areas. This is about being very, very precise and very thoughtful. Thankfully, we haven't had a consequence to this request. My concern is that we may not always be lucky. And so I think we need to have some safeguards in place to give the authority to the fire chief who ultimately is accountable for what happens.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense to me, that if you have the responsibility, it might be good, certainly moving forward. Again, we have such excellent staff of having the responsibility and the authority in one on the fire chief. Because yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing is all these open spaces. When we think of wildfires, we always think of the preserve, but the fires often are outside of the preserve, and they're endangering our neighborhoods and our preserve. So yeah, I would like to see that. Also, let's talk about the open space, maybe more for the public's benefit. So we have obviously 30,000 acres in the preserve, but we have NAOS. We have a lot of different open spaces. Can you describe how much of that do we have in the city?
Oh, I would need to call in my
my
closer and Jesus or Aaron. I did hear an interesting factoid that there is almost equitable amount of NAOS easement as there is preserve acreage, and that is a stark visual if you can imagine it. Aaron, perhaps you would want to speak to that.
Mayor Borowski and council members, I don't have the exact figures, but Chief Shannon, you're right, they're almost an equal amount in NAOS. So we certainly are committed to moving forward. The last time we updated the NAOS ordinance was in 2004. Certainly worth a look through this process, and we're committed to partnering with the chief on that.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't trying to get an exact number. What I was trying to get across to the community is that we have a lot of land that needs to have oversight. And when I think the NAOS, which was, I still think, a national, we're such a leader on that, we wanted to preserve the desert. Unfortunately, our invasive plants didn't obey. So we need to update our NAOS ordinance so that we can tackle these invasive plants, and as the chief will often say, also overgrowth of our native plants. But then everybody thinks, okay, we're going to clear cut. You already addressed that. But can you describe, so you might have a wash or you might have some NAOS. How, you said you can pinpoint, you're not going to clear cut. Can you go into a little more detail or show some?
We can, and I wonder if my audiovisual folks can bring up the NAOS video. I anticipated that the clarification on what NAOS is and what invasive species and native species look like. Can you pull that up? We have a quick video. But you can imagine, as you look here, there, I'll show you. That is both invasive species and native species coexisting, but in a very, very tight existence, and then as the drone flies up, you'll just see how proximal to the residents they are. And so that type of overgrowth, there's a property owner who has obligation to address that. What we're hearing from our residents is they want to address it, but there are some prohibitions in doing so. We have setbacks that we can move to that give us a generally advantageous position in terms of defendable space. But depending on the topography, if we have a slope, depending on climate or weather conditions, those fuels can be outperformed by weather very easily. And so what I would suggest to you is that example, which was right around 108th and Cholla, is a good example where we might want to go in and do some things to that area to do the thinning that you saw similar to the Firewise programming. It's not substantial, it's just giving the native species a chance to continue and to exist by clearing out a lot of that overgrowth, dead vegetation, and the invasive work.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And one final comment is on the funding. Obviously, our rules and laws are only as good as our enforcement. So do you see an increase with the Prop 490 funding, an increase in inspectors? Because that's something I would like to see.
So we do. The fire department had some 490 related requests, as did community services and others. And right now we're leveraging all those dollars to literally sit together and reprioritize how to address fuels management. We all talk about each other's funding sources for the same reasons, and that is to meet that priority list. And I don't see any reason why that won't continue regardless of any ordinance changes.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, I will say those are all my priorities. So I look forward to having this on an agenda where we can dive deeper. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Councilwoman McCallan, you want to speak as well. You're not up here, and I'm not sure why, but go ahead.
I'm over here, though. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Shannon. My question for you is, you had mentioned you have 3 risk reduction officers. Can you just explain real quick, do they go out into the community? Are they the ones that go into the community and say, hey, this is what your homeowners association needs to do? What is their function?
Mayor Borowski, members of the council, and Councilmember McCallum, yes, they're kind of a other duties as assigned person in the fire department. They're all captains. They're 24-hour responders. And so they will deal primarily with the HOAs to do education. They'll do site inspections. They'll meet with the residents and talk to them about Firewise protecting their individual properties. They're jacks of all trades. They do community education. They do response and initial investigation. So if a fire were to occur, they might be the first one to go to the source site and not worry about firefighting activities at all. They also have other duties for off-hour inspections that might be required. They are terrorism liaison officers to deal with the all-hazards nature of the threats that exist in Scottsdale. So they are truly a utility player that focuses primarily on the prevention issues for not only our residents but our businesses as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Shannon, and all of your fire. Are you on there? No?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a mistake. Okay. Vice Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Borowski. Chief Shannon, thank you for the presentation. The NAOS statistic you mentioned, that's staggering, and I think that just says a lot about our community, what we've preserved, and both inside and outside of the interface.
Mayor Borowski, members of the council, Vice Mayor Graham, the NAOS is necessary. It is what adds the beauty and
Yes.
personality of Scottsdale, and that we coexist in this mountainous region. But just like California, if we don't tend to it, it will respond to us.
Correct.
And so I have a philosophy when it comes to wildland fire, and that is I'd rather keep it out than put it out. And so our goal in not only our tactics and our strategy is to reduce the potential for the start, get to it early and keep it out. And all of those things include not only our very valuable preserve, but the NEOS perimeter that is so expansive, as you heard.
Well, thank you, Chief Shannon. This is putting, I would assume, is putting a lot of residents at ease. You didn't even mention or go too deep into our life-saving sprinkler code. We could spend hours on that alone. And just real quick, fire hydrants, putting people at ease, how often are those checked? And you'd say a little more about that. And that'd be my final question.
Yes, and I don't want to go too far into that. We do have the director of the water department here if you want to ask him specific questions about that. Nope. But let me just tell you that Mayor Borowski, members of council, we have an outstanding relationship with our water department. You know, they're the flip side of our coin, if you will. And so we feel very good about the water distribution capabilities, our hydrant checks. I heard just recently today, we get to over 2/3 of our existing hydrants, which are nearly 12,000 in number every year. And so I feel very good from a fire perspective on that, and I'm happy to let the water director speak to it.
That is satisfactory, and thank you, Chief Shannon. Mayor Borowski, thank you.
Thank you very much, and Councilman Quasman has a word.
Thank you, Chief Shannon, and I'm just so grateful for all that you're doing to protect citizens of Scottsdale, and like Vice Mayor Graham said, putting everybody at ease. I have just a special point that doesn't have to do with wildfire. I owe you, Chief Shannon, and the Scottsdale Fire Department a tremendous debt of gratitude. On Sunday, January 19th, it was the middle of the night, so it was basically the 20th, my 15-month-old Ari was turning blue, and he was going into full seizure. And at 2 a.m., and it was, thank God, it was mother's intuition to just check on him for some reason in the middle of the night, just woke up and checked, and it was about, you know, I have 4 children, and this is about as scary of a moment as any dad could ever possibly have. And within 4.5 minutes, fire department was there, and strapping my little baby boy onto a stretcher was a very, very scary moment. He got better and then relapsed while the fire department was there, and they got him out of there quickly, and thank God Ari's okay and everybody's okay. But I just, on a personal debt of gratitude, this is like one of the benefits of being able to sit on this rostrum, and thank you, both in an official capacity, but also as a dad in personal capacity. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. You're welcome.
Thank you. Glad everything's okay, Councilman Quasman. With that, I would like to add to the agenda the February 11th agenda, assuming that's sufficient time for you to bring back recommendations. I would ask that it be added. We can take a vote on this. That you bring back recommendations for council's consideration and adoption or approval. And with that, requesting to add to the agenda, go ahead, Sherry.
Mayor, I apologize. This item is for a presentation and no action, but I think we hear that the council wants us to come back quickly, and we'll work towards that end.
I can add that under mayor and council, though, right?
Well, we would have needed to know to put it on the agenda, to add it to mayor and council items, but I think we're hearing you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing the recommendations come back before on a future agenda.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to move to the public comment. Public comment is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and our property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. No official council action can be taken on these items, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes each to address the council. If you wish to speak on a non-agendized or agendized topic, please see the city clerk, and I know there have already been six public comments registered, and I will read off the names, 2 of which are also citizens petition. They've filed a citizens petition. So starting with Steve Sutton, then followed by Dan Isaac, Linda Milhaven, Lee Koftel, and Philip Kircher. And Steve, please approach the podium.
Steve, you have to go to the microphone because we need it for the minutes.
Mayor Borowski, before I give my public comment, I wish the council to know that I carefully compose all my public comments to comply with the 3-minute rule. Tonight, unexpected staff procedural actions make necessary a very short explanatory addition to my public comment that I hadn't anticipated. I ask the council to grant and forgive my possible need for a few extra seconds beyond 3 minutes. 2 weeks ago, the council voted to put my petition on the agenda of the next meeting. Last week, I learned it would not be on the agenda due to a staff procedural problem. Yesterday, minutes before I gave a new petition to the city clerk, I learned a preliminary agenda has been created, which has Chaparral Dog Park, Parks and Recreation staff comment on it. I hope the council understands that I cannot ask petition supporters who may have to leave work early, arrange childcare, or reschedule other appointments to attend a council meeting without having the certainty that a subject of the petitions will be addressed by the council. That and other reasons soon to be explained are why I've submitted a new petition to the council. For 5 months, I've spoken to and provided information to the City Council and Parks and Recreation Commission while waiting for a decision on dog park signs. 4 months ago, Parks and Recreation Director Nick Molinari said something to me, the gist of which is, we had a survey. If I change the signs, I'll need something to tell all the people who complain. Well, Director Molinari did not have a survey on dog park signs, and 2 months later, I provided the something he said he needed. Hundreds of residents supporting changing the signs and documentation of research refuting any rational complaint about a sign change. I petitioned the City Council because the behavior of some members of the Parks and Recreation Department Commission have convinced me they cannot be trusted to be objective in taking action on the petitions. I've provided the council a large amount of information and documentation that should be sufficient for making an informed decision. Tonight, I want to make sure council members are aware of an opportunity. People across the entire political spectrum signed the dog park petitions. The petitions provide an opportunity to demonstrate to the residents of Scottsdale that the council members can cooperate in supporting a nonpartisan, inexpensive, easy to quickly implement policy change that does not provoke the anger and rancor expressed in front of and on the dais at the last council meeting. Please do not let 5 months of waiting turn into 6 months of waiting for a decision on the dog park signs. I, Stephen Allen Sutton, on behalf of the hundreds of Scottsdale residents who requested new dog park area designation signs and etiquette signs through 2 separate petitions, the council unanimously voted to accept on November 12, 2024, and now petition the council to take action on the subjects of those petitions by voting on the following. Item 1, vote tonight to reapprove placing the subjects of the 2 petitions on the agenda for the next scheduled council meeting and perform all procedures necessary to ensure that there is not another failure to have the city manager's office place the subjects of the petitions on an agenda. Item 2, vote at the next scheduled council meeting to approve or disapprove the immediate adoption and installation of the new dog park area designation signs. Item 3, vote at the next scheduled council meeting to approve or disapprove the immediate adoption and installation of the new dog park etiquette signs. Item 4, if the council approves one or both types of signs, vote to take action that ensures the city manager's office confers with Stephen Sutton prior to the manufacture and installation of the signs. The purpose of the conference is to finalize the design and installation characteristics to optimize effectiveness in the manner previously explained at the November 25th, 2024 council meeting. And the last item is vote at the next scheduled council meeting to direct the city manager's office to have approved new signs installed no later than February 20th, 2025. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Congratulations, new Vice Mayor Kubakis.
Thank you. Dan Isaac.
Almost 4 years ago, I began attending the council meetings regularly after they restarted in person. I was horrified by what I saw, particularly the behavior of the former mayor, who bullied colleagues and speakers. I wrote emails to the council about this and spoke publicly at meetings. It was in part why I ran for office. I even spoke out when the prior mayor did this to Barry Graham, even though I disagree with virtually everything Mr. Graham says or does. It's about respect and collegiality. Imagine my surprise when at the first meeting of the new council, Mr. Graham took bullying and censorship to a greater extent. He used a procedural move to stifle all conversation, even a thank you from council member Whitehead. He did so after he repeated his false statements about the sustainability plan, so no one could correct him on record. Mr. Graham was aided in this disgusting display by Mr. Quasman, Ms. DeBoscus, and the Littlefields. Interestingly, it was only 2 hours earlier that the new council members spoke about working with the council. I'm not sure in what universe silencing your colleagues is working with them, but it certainly shouldn't be the universe Scottsdale is in. Mr. Graham's crusade to limit discourse has spread to social media, where he's blocking people on Nextdoor, as is Ms. DeBoscus. And now Mr. Quasman is publicly ranting about blocking people from attending council meetings because of what he supposedly overheard in a personal conversation. Mr. Quasman, if offensive private speech is a disqualifier for being in the Kiva, I would like to remind you of your vulgar-laden, pejorative rant about former council member Durham at the Via Linda Senior Center on Election Day. Do you remember that? I certainly do, as I'm sure others within earshot would as well. To make this council's offense even more egregious, it appears that Mr. Graham violated the open meeting law of ARS 38-431 by emailing a quorum of the council to strategize on the vote of an agenda item. And yes, the members had all been sworn in before the email was sent. The public ceremony before the meeting was a duplicate event for the public. Further, Mr. Graham included a former council member whom voters rejected twice as mayor, and a business owner who receives taxpayer dollars to support his and related businesses. Is this how the council is going to operate, with a shadow council made up of unelected members? And in the interest of time, I won't enumerate the profound misstatements by the Littlefields regarding the DRB role with regard to density and zoning and the apparent lack of understanding of what mixed use means. So what did we get from our council at their first meeting? Stifling discussion and comments from colleagues, ignoring the fact that the vast majority of written comments in December and January favored the sustainability plan, in other words, not listening to residents, and disregarding the rule of law and basic decency. That's quite the trifecta. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. Next, we have former Councilwoman Linda Milhaven.
Good evening, Linda Milhaven. I live on Belgian Trail here in Scottsdale. So congratulations to the two council members, and thank you for your willingness to serve. I wish you all a success, because your success is Scottsdale's success. While there may be disagreements in our community around policy issues, I believe there are several things on which we can all agree. I think we can all agree that our discussions should be civil, respectful, open, honest, and transparent. In fact, the Council Rules of Procedure includes the Civility Pledge developed by Scottsdale leadership and adopted by many organizations in Scottsdale. Section 10.2 reads in part, "As a member of the Scottsdale community, I will genuinely listen, speak respectfully, and be accountable for my words and actions." During your campaigns, you all emphasize the importance of listening to residents, and I hope that means you will listen to everyone. There are over 240,000 of us who live in Scottsdale, and you serve all of us, not just the few who voted for you. I think we can all also agree that we hope that you will study the issues, be open to new information, rely on facts and data, be willing to consider alternative points of view, be thoughtful in your deliberations, and make decisions for the greatest good. You didn't get off to a very good start in the first meeting. I commend the mayor for her efforts to try to keep control of the meeting, but I hope that as you settle into your roles, you will do better. Everyone in Scottsdale is relying on you, and we wish you the best. Now I'd like to shift to a policy issue. I applaud your pledges to increase resident access and participation in City Hall. This has been the goal of every previous city council, and we should be ever vigilant to look for ways to keep residents informed and involved. At your last meeting, you used this as one of the reasons to adopt an ordinance to establish the Budget Review Commission. I believe this is misguided. Establishing the Budget Review Commission is an abdication of one of your most important responsibilities, and which is to be good stewards of our tax dollars. The city budget is the mechanism through which the City Council supports programs and projects that deliver our quality of life. You should not be delegating policy decisions about what projects and programs get funded or don't get funded to unelected residents. In addition, direct appointments do not meet your goal of including more residents. Direct appointments ensure that only people in your current circles will be included rather than opening the opportunity to other qualified residents. Also, as new city council members, you have a lot to learn about the city's workings and finances. I don't expect that I will change your mind about this commission, but I do hope that you will stay close to this process, learn about city finances, and watch the details of the discussions of the commission so you can make informed decisions when it's your turn to approve the budget. And finally, as you learn about the city, I know that you will learn that city employees are not lazy slackers, but rather they follow the direction of the City Council. They're professionals, experts in their fields, and all of them contribute to making Scottsdale the wonderful place it is. They deserve your gratitude and respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lee Koftel.
Hi there, Lee Koftel. I live on 7726 East Thomas Road. I wanted to come here and just speak about roundabouts. There's something I think are a unallied good that we have here in the city, and I think our roundabout first policy meets both it lowers costs for the city and for residents. It reduces they reduce congestion for the city and for residents, and they are also safer for the residents who use them. So as far as cost, the first thing I kind of that I'm thinking about is today with the news that the federal government is stopping all grants and loans. As a member of the Transportation Commission, I see how much of our budget, our transportation budget, comes from outside of Scottsdale. The majority of it comes from outside of Scottsdale, and a large part of that comes from the federal government. And so I think with roundabouts being the less expensive option, that is something we should consider if we're going to watch over every penny that the citizens of Scottsdale contribute here. They are, in maintenance costs, they are less because you do not have poles that get knocked down by drivers, you do not have light bulbs, you do not have electricity costs, you do not have the maintenance that an intersection requires. They are faster because there is no wasted time whenever anybody needs to go through. People are able to transit through when there is an opening there, and so they have been shown over decades to allow more through traffic through intersections. And then they're safer. I've also looked, ADOT has recently published their findings on vulnerable road users and just general crash data, and the overwhelming majority of deaths and serious accidents and crashes happen in intersections. Roundabouts are an important tool to bring down speed, which is the #1 cause of injuries and death, is speed, and roundabouts bring that down. As a member of the Transportation Commission, we had a citizen come in and talk about her experience in the roundabout. She was hit. There was a conflict in there, and when she took her car there was no damage to it. Her vehicle was okay, and she was able to leave that intersection without any injuries or having to do all that. So I would just say for the 30% of Scottsdale residents who don't drive, please think of them also when it comes to roundabouts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Philip Kircher, followed by Tom Durham, and then finally Greg Blair.
Good evening, My name is Philip Kircher. I live at 7822 East Cochise Drive in Scottsdale. I'm a former city employee, 32 and a half years. I'm here representing my neighbors and our HOA. I live near 78th and Shea. We'd like to request that the council direct staff to look at installing an all-way stop at 78th Street and Gold Dust Avenue and lower the speed limit on 78th Street. We have a problem with cut-through traffic and speeding on 78th Street that we would like to try to address this manner as opposed to installing traffic control or traffic calming devices. So that is my request. I have prepared a document that's attached to the petition that I've submitted, and it includes speed data that's been collected by the city that documents that there is a speeding issue, and also outlines some policies that hopefully will be considered when looking to do some kind of action. So appreciate your attention, and thank you for having me. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski. Just real quick, I just want to comment on Mr. Kircher. I served almost 7 years on the Transportation Commission. Mr. Kircher is a retired city employee from the Transportation Department. He always did such a good job making transportation issues accessible, and he just gave really good, wonderful years of service to the city of Scottsdale. So thank you for coming back and talking to us, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank
Councilman
you.
Graham, appreciate that.
Former Councilman Tom Durham.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. After listening to Chief Shannon and seeing the fires in Los Angeles, I'm so proud that our community had the vision to support Proposition 490 and provide additional fire mitigation funding. And this is your friendly reminder that a majority of this council opposed that fire mitigation and wanted to deprive of our fire department of the necessary tools for fighting fires, especially in the preserve. But I'm here for a different reason tonight, and that is about the blatant illegality of the last meeting regarding a violation of the open meeting law. As we all know, Councilmember Graham wrote an email to a majority of the council, that was members Quasman, Dubaskus, Littlefield, Mayor Borowski, and shadow member Bob Littlefield. And he had a, quote, plan with two parts. The parts of this plan were first, to repeal the sustainability plan, and second, to shut off council debate so that no one would be able to show the errors in his emails. Now, this preconceived plan was a clear violation of open meeting law. I'm putting on the screen, if I can. Can I do that? It's a statement from the Arizona Agency Handbook 7.51, which is prepared by the Arizona Attorney General, which says if an electronic communication from one member of the public body proposes legal action and is sent to enough members of the body to form a quorum, a violation occurs, even if no public member responds to the electronic communication. So there's absolutely no doubt that's what happened here. Councilmember Graham sent a communication to a majority of the council proposing a plan and proposing action on it, a clear violation. And they carried this plan out to a T at the last meeting. The members fell in line, followed Councilmember Graham's dictates, and voted to shut off debate and voted to repeal the sustainability plan. And it doesn't matter that other members didn't respond to this email, even though the Attorney General in her investigation may show that they did. And it doesn't matter that they reached this agreement before the council meeting, because they carried the agreement out during the council meeting, after they were inaugurated and members of the public. And what are the consequences of this? The law provides that all legal action taken in violation of the open meeting law is null and void. This means that the repeal of the sustainability plan is null and void, since it was taken down in violation of open meeting law. So your effort to repeal the sustainability plan is null and void, and it still stands in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Former Councilman Durham. That, I believe, is the last, one more. Oh, Greg Blair, excuse me. Is Greg here?
Mayor, council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to thank you all for the work you did on repealing the sustainability plan. The sustainability plan contained things that I think were not well defined and potentially could open the city to spending resources ineffectively and not spending our money wisely. I think you all displayed courage and leadership, even in the face of open rebuke and intimidation. So going forward, I think the residents who voted for you can be assured that you will be listening to them. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we are moving on to the consent agenda, items 1 through 13. And if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve those consent agenda items.
Meeting minutes? Meeting minutes?
Oh, meeting minutes, sorry.
Mayor, I'll move to, oh, you need to open this section up.
You want to withdraw the other motion since she just moved some?
Go ahead.
We're moving on to the meeting minute approval. Are there any, having read and received the minutes, are there any revisions? If not, I request a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 3rd.
Madam Mayor, I will move to approve the meeting minutes from December 3rd and December 4th.
Correct.
Second?
Are those the correct dates, Ben?
Yeah, are those the,
Okay.
did we
thank
miss
you.
those last time? Okay. I know we read
Thank you.
those last time. Please register your vote.
I'm voting yes.
She's hitting yes.
You can see the lights on.
For the record, Councilwoman Dabauskas is.
Okay, unanimously approved. Moving along to the consent agenda items 1 through 13. If there are no questions on those, I'd invite a motion to approve consent agenda items.
Madam Mayor, if I may make a motion to approve the consent agenda items with one small comment, and that is my item number 7. We deferred item number 7, parking structures in Old Town Scottsdale. Very important projects, and very excited to get those back on the agenda. And that is the one comment I will add, and with that, I will move to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 13. Thank you.
I'll second that, and I'd like to speak to my second on one item.
Go right ahead.
Just item 13, I just want to really thank our city staff and the Scottsdale Community College for working together and opening pickleball courts on Sundays, holidays, and summer. So I'm really excited about item 13. That happened last year. So.
Thank you. All those in favor?
I'm registering yes.
And that passes. Thank you. We've already done all the public comments on non-agendized items. So with that, citizens petitions. We've heard 2 citizen petitions from the individuals that spoke earlier. The first one on Steve Sutton. For your consideration, I'll ask for a motion to bring that back to the next scheduled agenda on the issue he's raised on dog park signs.
Mayor, are you asking for a motion to bring that back? Could we bring it back the February 11th, or Ben, our meeting scheduled 11th or 28th?
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, so this is actually scheduled for the February 11th agenda already. It will be on that agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're set on that. Thank you. And then the second petition that we just heard on Mr. Kircher, I'd ask for a motion or consideration on agendizing that item.
Mayor, I would like to motion to direct the city manager to number 2, direct the city manager to investigate the matter and prepare a written response to council. And I also want to, I think he already snuck out, but it was nice to see Mr. Kircher again.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor, please register your vote.
Yes, please.
Moving along to mayor and council items. Number 15. Tonight, I have the proud opportunity to appoint our Citizens Budget Commission, the Budget Review Commission members. At our last meeting, we unanimously approved the adoption and impaneling, bringing back, I should say, the Budget Review Commission. So I have been provided a list of names by all of my colleagues, so I will read those. And any of the individuals that are present, please step forward and accept your appointment. I see in the audience David Smith, who I have personally appointed as the chair of the Budget Review Commission, and I'll take a moment to just share. I've worked with David Smith in the past. He previously previously served on the Citizens Budget Commission, and he was also our former acting, you were the actual city treasurer, I think.
Yes.
Yes. So very proud to appoint David Smith. Next, Vice Mayor Graham appoints Mark Stevens. Councilwoman DeBoscus appoints Brad Newman. Councilman Quasman appoints Bob Lettieri, and Councilwoman Littlefield appoints Sharon Seitz. Councilwoman McCallan has appointed Daniel Schweiker. Councilwoman Whitehead appoints Carla. And I know several of these individuals are in the audience right now, and without belaboring it, does anyone oppose their appointment? And there were comments earlier by former Councilwoman Linda Milhaven, and I can say this is such a quality group of individuals and really drives the point home of how direct appointments can really step up and make a difference in our city. So thank you all for your willingness to serve. Moving along to item 16, and I'm going to let Councilman Quasman take the stage on this one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the council, yesterday, January 27th, was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It serves as a stark remembrance for the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp and provides a very needed opportunity on an annual basis to see exactly what happens when an age-old changing virus of anti-Semitism that grows into something that turns into extermination. 1/3 of the Jewish people lost their lives. My family members lost their lives. And just to show you what true genocide is, Madam Mayor, members of the council, the Jewish population is roughly exactly the same as it was 80 years ago. It did not grow with the rest of the global population. That just shows how decimated we were as a people. To that end, there is what is known as the IRA definition, okay, through the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. It's an international working definition of anti-Semitism. As I said before, there's a metamorphosis of the virus of anti-Semitism in this world. Anti-Semitism, as the famous former chief rabbi, Lord Jonathan Sacks, the famous former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, said, anti-Semitism is something that changes faces, it changes shape, and most recently, the manifestation in a post-Holocaust world has included the targeting of the state of Israel, not as a criticism as just another country, but targeting the state of Israel that's conceived as a Jewish collectivity. And that's the key of this working definition. I want to be sure to members of this council, criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. Criticism of Israel conceived as a Jewish collective, that is where anti-Semitism begins. The IRA working definition has been adopted by a numerous amount of U.S. entities, including the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of Education, multiple states, including the state of Arizona, as well as multiple municipalities throughout the country, including large Jewish populations in the Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade, as well as Beverly Hills, California. This is not a legally binding agenda item that we're going to place on the calendar. This is not legally binding. This is used as a tool with which to educate and help communities understand what anti-Semitism truly is. And as we know, Scottsdale has one of the largest Jewish populations in the state of Arizona. In this congressional district, David Schweikert's congressional district, it is by far the largest population of Jews in the state of Arizona. What this does is we're going to agendize, I'm asking to agendize this item and make sure that we have staff place it in a way, wrap it in a way that is going to have unanimous support and community involvement, make sure that anybody who has any concerns, those concerns will be allayed and can be used as an educational tool moving forward. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you want to go ahead and make a motion?
I move to, it's a motion to agendize the item at a later date at staff's discretion. Okay. I move to direct the city manager or responsible charter officer to agendize the item for a future meeting. Language is right there in front of me.
Second.
All those in favor, register your vote. Thank you. That item passes.
Thank you, members.
And that concludes all of our business, official business for tonight, but I do see, I just want to add, welcome to, I understand you're the Pinnacle Presbyterian Troop 869. I did some research while I was up here. Thank you for joining us today. You missed the spotlight and the pledge, so now you're going to have to come back and sit through another meeting. So you can talk to your troop leader about that. I would like you to come approach the dais after the meeting concludes so we can take a nice photo of all of you here at the council meeting. And I applaud your participation and interest in what's going on in the city. So having no other further business.
I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.